The last day of preseason has ended, and with it, the checkered flag falls on this test, which has been characterized by secrecy. We will see the cars again in a couple of weeks, but today, on this last day, we had the remaining 8 teams running in their last chance to do so at the Barcelona circuit. A final day characterized by a lot of activity on the track, many laps, and the last image is left to us by the Formula 1 cars in this shakedown at the Barcelona circuit. So, ladies and gentlemen, to keep this video from getting any longer, welcome to the summary of the last day of the first preseason session at the Barcelona Catalunya circuit. If yesterday we talked about how Mercedes surprised us with the number of laps they were doing, we have to say the same about Ferrari, who did an amazing job today. They made the most of the preseason's last day and final session. They again split driving between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton on their final test day. In the morning, the one in charge of driving the car was Leclerc, enjoying a very productive session as he completed 79 laps and led the morning with a time of 1:16.653, where once again they showed a lot of consistency in long runs and 0% drop-off. In the afternoon, Lewis Hamilton drove the car, and the situation was much the same. With 167 laps run, the two drivers completed 146 laps today, which is a lot for this team. In the end, like his teammate, they retested performance. Hamilton set the fastest preseason time at 1:16.348, a tenth quicker than George Russell's best time yesterday. So it ends up being a session with a lot of laps completed. The Italian team hasn't shown any serious reliability issues, which was one of the team's biggest concerns. So if yesterday we spoke well of Mercedes for these same reasons, what Ferrari is showing gives positive feelings. They finished the preseason, leaving a good impression on all the tifosi. McLaren ends preseason with a productive Friday, overcoming the issue that reduced their mileage yesterday. Today they've been able to enjoy a trouble-free day, where both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri completed a huge number of laps. This morning it was Piastri who was in charge of driving the car. There was extensive work with long runs and aerodynamic tests, with the Australian completing 80 laps. Before giving the car to Lando Norris in the afternoon, he used the chance to complete multiple long-run laps. At times, a lot of paraffin work on the car was visible. He briefly held the fastest lap at 1:16.6 until Hamilton surpassed it at the session's end. But he completed 86 laps totaling 166 miles. Today made up for lost time yesterday, so McLaren finished the last day with plenty of work and information gathered. And we'll have to see how things develop once we get to the Bahrain test in a few days. After Hadjar's Tuesday accident, Red Bull repaired the car and had Max Verstappen finish their preseason today. Despite repairing the car and sourcing parts from Milton Keynes, it didn't impact them, and they enjoyed a day with many laps. Max Verstappen completed 118 laps. Although some of the people who have been up on the hills watching the circuit have commented that they've seen the car looking nervous. While there could be many reasons for this and nothing specific, the main thing is they're back on track without any obvious serious issues. And that's taking into account their position as a new constructor, which is important and something they'll have to confirm in the coming weeks. Max's best time was 1:17.586, with which Red Bull ends their 3 days of testing, authorized. And in just a few days, they're heading to the second session at the Bahrain circuit. After Wednesday's issues, he returned to the track and showed sensations much closer to Monday's. A team with a lot of laps, by far the team that did the most laps on this last day of preseason. In the morning, Oliver Burman drove the car and completed 105 laps in his session, more than any other driver. After his morning lap marathon, he gave the car to Esteban Ocon, who completed 89 laps, bringing the team's total to 194 laps. It was a crazy day for the American team. As for the data collected, remember that every lap means information and data that will help develop the car. And finishing as one of the teams with the most laps completed is extremely important. In the end, the best time for this team was set by Esteban Ocon with a time of 1:18. 393 laps, Haas ends preseason with a high count. If they can apply that in a few weeks, it will benefit them heading into the first race of the year. Gasly was in charge of closing the French team's preseason on his own in a session where he managed to complete 164 laps. Once again, they didn't experience any problems that limited their mileage. They had a lot of activity and spent most of the session running a mix of long stints and aerodynamic tests. So the good feelings about Alpine continue to be confirmed, and we'll have to see once we get to Bahrain how things go with the French team. For now, Alpine can relax knowing their preseason in Spain was well spent. After 2 days of very limited running due to constant problems, today Audi is adding its highest mileage day, and they finally enjoyed an apparently calm session. Bortoleto and Hülkenberg shared the car today and finally managed to surpass 100 laps combined in the morning. Bortoleto drove the car and completed 67 laps, before handing over to Nico Hülkenberg, who completed 81 laps in his session to finish with a total of 148 laps, which feels like glory after their recent problems. This obviously doesn't solve everything they've been through, but at least being able to finish with a good number of laps will give Audi some peace of mind. Their best time of the day was set by Nico Hülkenberg with a lap of 1 minute 19.870. Aston Martin was able to run fully today after debuting the car very late yesterday. And although it was reported that the plan was for both Alonso and Stroll to drive this Friday, in the end it was Alonso who was on track all day. And among the highlights of Alonso's participation is that he was able to run and make very good use of this session. His mileage was much more limited than that of other teams, barely managing to complete 61 laps. They spent much of the afternoon in the garage before returning to the track. It's unclear if they were fixing issues or just collecting more car data. But in the end, those 61 laps were all they could manage. Today, they finished the day with a time of 1:20.795. And we'll have to wait until Bahrain to get more information about Adrian Newey's new single-seater. And Cadillac ends its preseason pretty much the same way as yesterday. They've managed to do more laps than in their first run, but their mileage is practically the same. Bottas was the only driver today. Completing 54 laps, Cadillac is still identifying and resolving car issues. So with mileage very similar to what we saw yesterday, Cadillac ends its preseason in Barcelona, and now the data collected should help them have a much more efficient preseason in Bahrain. And in the end, Bottas ends the session with a 1:22.790, while the North American team completes the fewest laps in this Barcelona preseason. But, as I've emphasized all week, this was expected for them, considering that it's a new structure in Formula 1 and that this preseason was going to be more about solving problems and preparing the car for the season's first race at Albert Park in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we finish the last summary of this preseason in Barcelona for Formula 1 in 2026. Given all the information so far, which team do you think is the strongest right now? Has any team surprised or disappointed you? And tell me all your opinions about these 5 days we've had of the Formula 1 preseason. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section. That's all from me. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications for new uploads, and share it with your friends. So I invite you to follow us on our Instagram and Twitter accounts. The links will be in the description of this video, and I'll see you soon. For more content on your Skyline Racing channel, thank you for tuning in. See you later.